it's not that you need to own a house or own a car, you actually just need to use it. As long as you get the use out of it, then what is the most cost-effective way of doing that? So when you come to make the decision about whether or not you should buy your house, you need to be asking yourself the question, what could you be doing with the money if you didn't buy the house? Should you buy a house? I guess by asking that question, you're asking if you should be buying a house for yourself to live in. Should you buy a house or should you rent a house? Great question, and I think a lot of interesting ideas and logic behind the answer. For me, it's quite simple. When you make any purchasing decision, purchasing against rental, you've got to ask yourself, what is the opportunity cost? What is the cost of buying something compared to what you would be able to do with that money if you didn't buy that thing? And that's the same for a house, for a car, for any asset, really. And I think really when it comes to buying these personal possessions, most people's buying decisions are never about financial logic and are more about emotion and ego. I think there's probably a very British thing, because I know in America, for example, people have been a lot more open to renting houses, particularly at higher levels, higher price values on houses than we have in the UK. And I think there's a real ego thing about the fact that people feel they must own their house or they must own a car. When really, I think you just need to look at these assets and say, it's not that you need to own a house or own a car, you actually just need to use it. As long as you get the use out of it, then what is the most cost-effective way of doing that? So when you come to make the decision about whether or not you should buy your house, you need to be asking yourself the question, what could you be doing with the money if you didn't buy the house? So when you buy that house, let's say, pick whatever number we want, it's a £500,000 house. That's probably going to need a minimum of £100,000 deposit. There's going to be stamp duty, there's going to be legal costs, there's going to probably be some furniture and other bits and pieces. Realistically, for that £500,000 house, you're probably going to have put £150,000 of capital into it. You're going to be borrowing £350,000. What is the cost of the mortgage compared to what is the cost of the rent? Is there a differential in those two figures? If one costs more than the other, then that's the opportunity cost. For the £150,000 that you've put down there as your deposit, okay, people may be saying to you, yeah, but the house is going up, so that £150,000 is an investment. But could you be investing it in a better way? Could you be buying a higher yielding buy-to-let property? Or is there a business that you could have invested it in that's going to make you more money? There's no right answer to any of these questions. It very much depends on your personal circumstances and where you are financially and what you need to do with the money. The really important thing to do is not to get emotionally attached to these decisions. It's a very British thing. It's particularly a thing of 20, 30, 40, 50 years older. The generations before us, your parents, your grandparents, very much come from that view of you've got to get on the property ladder, you've got to buy a house. And that house buying decision tends to come ahead of any other financial decision, or rather financial logic that people would tend to make. And maybe buying that house for you right now isn't the right decision if you haven't started the business yet that you want to start, if you haven't got any savings in your account, if you haven't got a pension, if you haven't got an ISA. Some of these things probably need considering before you put every last penny into buying a house. Talking about that emotional and ego factor of it, I can tell you from first-hand experience, I've actually rented more of the personal houses that I've lived in than I've actually owned those houses. For me, that's been a decision twofold. One, that I would rather have the capital available for the businesses I invest in. When I lend money, when I invest in businesses, I'm making annual returns on my money of 20, 30, 40, 50, potentially even higher. And I'm never ever going to be getting those kind of returns by buying and owning the house that I live in. So when capital is limited to me, then it doesn't make any sense for me to put that capital into a house. I want to be using it to aggressively invest in investment opportunities, in income producing opportunities. Also, I like to travel. I like to be flexible. I often wake up tomorrow and go, oh, you know what, I'm moving to Dubai, or I'm moving to Las Vegas, or I'm moving to Spain, or many of the places that I've lived in. If I owned a house in whichever country I was moving from, that's going to limit my ability then for where I'm going to next. Okay, people would say, yeah, but you could just sell that and buy a new house. Buying and selling property is a very expensive thing. Every time you buy and sell, legal fees, agents fees, the time it takes to sell the house, whether or not you get the right price at the time that you're expecting. If you own this asset and you're wedded to this asset, it might make you make decisions in other areas of your life that you didn't want to make. And maybe you will put off moving to another country when you really want to make that move. Maybe it will put you off starting a business when you really want to start that business just because you think now's not the right time, because you're wedded to these houses that don't make financial sense and are just purely there for kind of emotional and ego value. So that's my advice. Look at the opportunity cost, look at what you could be doing with the money if you weren't buying the house. But first and foremost, make sure that whatever buying decisions you make, whether it's for a house, whether it's for a car, whether it's for any other asset, make sure that those decisions are made from financial logic and not ones of ego.